Hi everyone. So first official day of summer was last week, and then we had some brutally hot days following. So I thought, what a good time to talk about sunscreen and sun protection. So being married to a dermatologist, our house is pretty full of sunscreen and varying types of sunscreen. And so I thought, why don't I show you what we have? Why don't we discuss what kinds you can use? As of course, if you go to the store, you can be overwhelmed by which one to buy, what type, spray, cream, stick, should I just get a UPF shirt? There's so many options these days, and that's a great thing, as of course I am Gen X and we grew up basically getting a tan all the time. So let's start with sunscreens. There's two main types. There is the chemical sunscreens, and it's such a bad name. It's, because it's nothing bad for your skin. It's actually great for the skin. And then there's your physical barrier creams, or the zinc oxides. So the chemical barrier creams are, it's nothing that your body is going to have any problems with. So they use a chemical to block off the UVA, UVB lights. And this is the most common type of sunscreens. And what you will see on the actual bottle is just either says broad spectrum or UVA, UVB protection. So this is pretty much the most common sunscreen. If you go to certain islands and you're traveling, like Australia or Hawaii, there is one particular chemical that, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it, that they won't allow you to use. And so they often have in availability either a zinc or certain of sunscreens that have like Sunbum removed that chemical because they feel like it's not great for their coral. This hasn't really been shown to be true, but that's still their feeling. So just an FYI, it's not because it's bad for you. So I want you all to be aware. I've come across that in traveling before. So, some really good sunscreens. I mean, it doesn't matter brand. So I'll talk about special cases later as far as like sensitive skin, eczema, etc. But types, cream, spray, face stick, it really doesn't matter. If you have very active young kids, a spray might be helpful, but you really have to pay attention to make sure you're, when you spray that you're also rubbing it in. Otherwise you might have a streak that you leave open. But the spray is the best way to cover multiple kids very quickly when they're anxious to get out the door. I do really love a face stick. I do. I think it's easier. You don't get it in their eye, and you know where you're getting it. Don't forget tops of the ears and the neck. Lots of burns here, and the lips, right? So we don't want to forget that area. Moving on to our zinc oxide physical blocker. This is the stuff that turns you white. Back in my day, you could get it in pink and yellow and stuff like that. But in general, it's really hard to get rubbed in. It's considered a physical barrier blocker, and it just differs a little bit because it physically blocks the sun. So if you accidentally buy it and you didn't know it was what it was, and you're like, why isn't this rubbing in? It will eventually absorb into your skin and you won't be so white after you've used it. But it is a zinc product, and when you initially put it on, it's going to turn you pretty white. They've become more and more available. They kind of went out of people didn't like being very colorful when they put their sunscreen on, and now they're back. And they've made a lot of them that are a little less opaque. So you can find some. They're still harder to rub in than the other ones, but they're trying harder to get them to be more rubbed in. Moving on from that, we have the UPF, that's Universal Protective Factor clothing. Super helpful for our little babies. So in general, one of the questions I get is, how old does my baby have to be to wear sunscreen? Sunscreen has not been tested on infants younger than 6 months. And so while I don't think it's harmful to infants or newborns, we also just don't want them in the sun. Their skin is very new and sensitive and white, or light, we don't want burning to happen. Babies younger than 6 months also we don't want them to have water. So the more heat they're exposed to, the more likely they are to get dehydrated. So exposing them to long periods of sun is not great in general. So UPF clothing is a better idea for little ones and short increments in the sun, right? So if you're at the beach, okay, have maybe a tent, keep them in a cool area, and then just small times outside. Once they are a little bit older, the type of sunscreen doesn't matter. So you don't have to fall for anything that says baby on it. It just smells babyish. So you don't have to get anything that says baby. The one key in shopping for sunscreen is at least has to have an SPF of 30. You do not have to be tricked into buying SPF 100. There really isn't any benefit in going over a 50. You're not going to get better protection. You really need to reapply every 2 hours or after they get out of the pool or the ocean anyway. So buying something that's 100 versus 70 isn't going to give you better protection. So whether it's 50 or 70, it really doesn't make a difference. If you just like that brand and they sell it in 100, fine, great. But don't spend extra money for the 100. So shop for what you like, not necessarily for the number, as long as you're getting an SPF that's somewhere 30 to 50. As for those who have sensitive skin or eczema, you're going to probably want to shop for one that is a less irritating sunscreen. So the ones that are kind of less irritating, most of them don't come in a spray, although the Neutrogena Ultra Sheer does. It comes in a small spray. California Baby, incredibly expensive, great for eczema. CeraVe, also great for eczema. Those are my go-to for eczema kids because they're less likely to cause a reaction. So again, CeraVe, Neutrogena Ultra Sheer, California Baby. Those are my go-tos. I don't know if Cetaphil makes one, but they may. Eucerin has come out with a zinc line, so you can get that. And then there's some really fancy, cosmetic company lines that you could use too. I will show you what I have here. Just some samples of what I had in my house so that you can look and see. So this is the face stick, Neutrogena. And again, it says broad spectrum. It only came in a 70, so that's why I have this. So I like this. You can put it on the face. Obviously, I'm not getting paid for any of these companies. So this is my favorite for me. It's the Neutrogena Ultra Sheer. So this is the one I was talking about. It's pretty nice for eczema patients. It does come in a spray. If you read the label here, it says broad spectrum. So that means UVA, UVB protection. You need both. One is a skin cancer, one's gonna damage you and make you have wrinkles later in life. This just came out a few years ago. So CeraVe face stick, and I don't know if you can see it, it's a zinc. So it's a zinc face stick. And it actually doesn't make you very white. So physical barrier, it's a good one. It's small, easy to fit in your pocket. This is what I use. I have many different versions of this, so don't get set off by the banana boat. But so it's a 50. On it, it says, you know, sweat, but it really doesn't matter. It's not, you still have to apply it the same amount of times. It says water resistant. It really doesn't matter. Anytime you get in and out of the water, you're going to have to get them reapplied. But the most important part, it says broad spectrum, right? So UVA, UVB. And it's a spray. Kids, like I have 4 kids, you know. So this one is one of the newer zinc products, Eucerin. My husband loves zinc products. So it says hypoallergenic. And so this is one of the ones probably going to make you a little bit more white. Give it time. It's going to absorb in. This is one of the fancy, I haven't used this, but my husband has. It's one of the fancier derm cosmetic ones that, again, is a zinc product that is supposed to be less like opaque for you. And then for my older kids, my teens who constantly use like a moisturizer, I really want y'all to be thinking about moisturizers that have sunscreen so that you already have sunscreen on your face. So for example, this is my sunscreen face moisturizer. And so you can see at the bottom, well, maybe it's not focusing very well. It says broad spectrum SPF 30. So it's a daily face moisturizer. I put it on in the morning and it's got an SPF 30. So no matter what conditions I run into during the day, I have sunscreen on my face. So the younger you are and the more sunburns you have as a kid, the more likely you are to have skin cancer as an adult. Obviously genetics play, but it's important to prevent sunburns as a child. That is when you are most at risk for creating a skin cancer problem later in life. So I hope it was helpful. Hydrate yourselves if you're out there in the sun. And again, reapply every 2 hours, okay?